Okay, while waiting for other people to come in, we'll play the WTO video. It's about 7 minutes. Yeah.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to extend a warm welcome to all participants of the International Ecotourism Travel Mart 2023. My name is Yoshiaki Honpo, and I am the Chief of UNWTO Regional Support Office for Asia and the Pacific. It is my greatest honor to be invited to such an important event where the latest and the most diverse sustainable tourism knowledge is discussed and shared by tourism stakeholders across the world. As a leading international organization responsible for the promotion of responsible, sustainable, and universally accessible tourism, UNWTO has committed to promoting tourism as an instrument in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, while working to maximize tourism's socio-economic contribution and minimize its negative impact. The sustainable tourism development requires ensuring a suitable balance between environmental, economic, and socio-cultural aspects, which will rightly be covered in the agenda of the coming days. Tourism destinations are highly vulnerable to climate change, and the sector directly and indirectly contribute to the loss of biological diversity. Thus, the green transformation of the tourism sector is needed, not just for the planet, but also for the future of the industry itself. In this regard, I would like to share two significant initiatives and commitments by UNWTO on climate change and biodiversity. The first one is the Glasgow Declaration, which was officially announced at COP26 in November 2021. It endorses the global commitment to at least halve emissions by 2030 and reach zero by 2050, and requests signatories to make and implement climate action plans and to measure and report their progress. For now, nearly 800 signatories made this sector-wide commitment, and we invite you to join us on this journey. The second one is a new collaboration with the World Travel Tourism Council and the Sustainable Hospitality Alliance to bring the sector together on a shared nature-positive vision for travel and tourism, and to halt and reverse biodiversity loss by 2030, which was announced at COP15 in December 2022. More than 150 signatories to the vision have already committed to adopting a nature-positive approach to tourism through integrating protection for biodiversity, reducing carbon emissions and the impact of pollution, and preventing the unsustainable use of resources to protect and restore nature and its wildlife. This new alliance supports and inspires government, businesses, and the society to implement the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework and help transform humanity's relationship with nature through adopting the vision. In order to achieve sustainable tourism development, wide participation of relevant stakeholders, and consensus building within the destination or the community are essential. UNWTO has also been promoting sustainable tourism management at the destination level through the international network of sustainable tourism observatories installed. To complement these initiatives, the Regional Support Office for Asia and the Pacific created a handbook on evidence-based sustainable tourism management, which provides steps to involve stakeholders to determine challenges and goals, and to create a system for monitoring the achievement of these goals at the destinations. And last February, we showcased this handbook to selected Vietnamese tourism stakeholders for their practical application in the province of Binh Thuan. We believe in the power of tourism as an instrument to build a better world for both people and nature. Ecotourism and green travel play an important role in accelerating the sector's approach to sustainability. Through this event, we hope that you will be more inspired and will lead by example for other businesses. According to the World Tourism Barometer of January 2023, UNWTO forecast that international tourist arrivals this year could reach 80% to 15% of pre-pandemic levels. In this important phase, let us keep working together to achieve our shared vision of responsible tourism recovery that is better for the people, planet, and prosperity. I appreciate this kind invitation to address all of you, and I wish you all the best in this week's event. Thank you very much, and a good day to all of you.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. To all the foreigners, magandang hapon means good afternoon. Okay, we are going to session 2 now, socio-cultural dimension of ecotourism, specifically highlighting best practices. Our moderator for this session is Dr. Mi Kang from South Korea. She has been introduced earlier, so I don't have to introduce, but I just want to highlight that she has been doing this work on ecotourism for the last 30 years of her life. I didn't believe she was doing it because she looks like she's only 27. Anyway, it just shows how she enjoys her work, the energy that she has, and this afternoon she will show us again how much she loves working for ecotourism by moderating for this session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yeah, you need a smile. You know, ecotourism is a beautiful tourism. We always see beautiful nature, beautiful community members. So if you do not smile, that's the evidence of not sustainable ecotourism activities you are doing. So work itself is stressful, difficult, time-consuming, energy-consuming. But when we think about the result and the journey we are taking, our colleagues, you should smile. And that's my secret to look young. Yeah, today, so we will talk about the more humans, the people. So how we can interact the culture and then with the different communities, including food. So that's really the one of attraction for tourism. So let's see how the in the field it's connected to ecotourism. So we have four the amazing the speakers. But the first speaker is from Philippines, Mr. Boboy Costas. Actually, when I talk about him to other Filipinos, I never seen anyone who say, "Oh, I do not know him." So I don't feel really I needed to introduce him. But for our international guests, I'd like to introduce him very shortly. I need the glasses. Boboy Costas organized the Bozo Alogusan Ecotourism Association in Cebu and developed the Alogusan River Eco-Cultural Tour, which turned the fishermen and their families into community tourism champions. So actually this project was really recognized globally and also got a lot of global awards, including UNWTO, UNEP, ASEAN, and also Green Destinations. In 2022, he received the first Asian Institute of Management Sustainable Tourism Award, and the Philippine Airlines recognized him as one of the inspiring Filipinos in 2016. He founded Grassroots Travel and then is currently board member of Asian Ecotourism Network, director of Ecotourism for Eco Explorations, director of Philippine Parks and Biodiversity, and the secretary for Asia Pacific region of the China-based World Rural Tourism Conference Organization. So please welcome Boboy for his speech.
Okay, maayong hapon kanatong tanan. Good afternoon. It's good to be here, no, in front of you, in front of all people who are united with the same passion, and that's passion for ecotourism. Now, I'm going to talk about ecotourism and food. So, coming out of the pandemic, we saw people suddenly were interested about nature. We saw the emergence, not really the emergence, but we saw the return of ecotourism as well as culinary tourism because people were spending most of the time outside. And when you have nature, culture, and food, there's what? There's magic there. Don't you think? Okay, so when we talk about ecotourism, as we've learned this morning, all of the talks this morning, we found out that if you really want to determine if the project is ecotourism, you have to just run the acid test, no? And this is based on my experience. Number one is, I call this the 4 C's, no? Is there conservation involved? Is the community protecting something? Is the NGO working something? Number 2, is there local community involved? Would it be fishermen, housewives, disadvantaged sectors, out of school youth, etc.? Third is culture, because you really cannot separate community from culture, and each community has a different culture. And number 4 is commerce. Whether you like it or not, ecotourism is a business, because otherwise, it won't sustain if it's not profitable, if it doesn't bring in income, especially to the local communities. Number 5, well, it's given, no? Carrying capacity. So we also learned that ecotourism capitalizes on the cultural environment. Aside from the natural assets a destination has, the destination should also capitalize on the cultural environment. You have songs, you have dances, you have rituals, etc. And which actually ties up to the food. So ecotourism serves local cuisine, right? You agree with me? Okay. So why is community involvement important in culinary tourism? Just like, why is the community important in ecotourism? Because culinary tourism empowers all those who form part of the gastronomic value chain. And this includes the farmers, the fisher men who catch the fish, the local cooks, etc. Thus, it strengthens the identity, the feeling of belonging, and safeguarding its authenticity. Okay? And the community or the local population cares about its gastronomy because food and foodways are inseparable part of their culture and heritage. So let me first define what culinary tourism is. Culinary tourism is the pursuit and enjoyment of unique and memorable eating and drinking experiences. So, there are other definitions as well. Culinary tourism is about food as a subject and as a medium, destination, and a vehicle for tourism. It is about individuals exploring foods new to them, as well as using food to explore new cultures and ways of being. It is about group using food to sell their histories and to construct marketable and publicly attractive identities about individuals, satisfying curiosity, and it is about experiencing food in a mode that is out of the ordinary, that steps outside the normal routine. Okay, so what makes up culinary tourism? It's the otherness, or cuisines representing ethnicity or exotic culture vastly different from the tourist, or in other words, from the gaze of the tourist. An example would be this. No? Or culinary tourism is actually the food's network of activities and its systems could be physical, social, cultural, economic, spiritual, and aesthetic, cookery complex, including attitudes, taboos, and meal systems, or the food habits in a society, and this is collectively termed as foodways, which allow for more strategies or for more activities other than eating. So another example, making kimchi. You have farming, no? So agritourism is actually just a subset of culinary tourism because farming is just one way of preparing the food. And then what makes up culinary tourism? Food as a tourist attraction and a destination. Have you been to Cebu? Cebu is famous for lechon. What else? Danggit, and of course we have our hanging rice. We call it hanging rice, no? Puso. These are actually steamed rice wrapped in, coconut fronds. Strategies on how food is being presented in the destination also makes up what culinary tourism is. So that's another example. It could be food festivals. It could be the way the food is being presented, the way it's being told to the tourists. So, in other words, how do you put culinary tourism in the context of sustainable tourism? So, we just, of course, remember the 3 P's of sustainability, of sustainable development. And this is people, planet, or the environment. And what's the third one? Profit, but I'd rather call it prosperity. Profit sounds too capitalist. So these are the context of culinary tourism, no? I mean the context of culinary tourism in the context of sustainable development. So I'd like to show you, do I still have time? Yes. I'd like to show you some case studies I did in the past maybe 10 years. So of course, this one, it won one of the 44 best tourism villages in the world by UNWTO in 2021, and it also won other awards. So these are some of the community. These are some of the members of the community during the pandemic. These are actually the photos taken when they won the UNWTO award. So when we first did the project in 2009, we started with doing an inventory of the natural heritage of the river or of the community. So we assessed the river, the seagrass, the corals, the mangrove, and the beach forest ecosystems, and we found out there are 61 bird species, 24 mangrove species, 5 dolphin species, and 7 seagrass species. Aside from the natural resources, we also conducted what you call cultural mapping. You know? So we found out the community has forgotten traditions, and this include oil making during Holy Week or Semana Santa. You have traditional bread making, which really proved helpful during the pandemic because they went back to their traditional economic activity, which is bread making. And then grass weaving, they weave grasses into mats and bags. They have syncretic rituals, a combination of Catholicism and animistic belief. And then they documented the important landmarks, and they have what you call kulilising hari or impromptu poetry. So we found out that they still have these forgotten traditions of baking traditional bread. And since they are a community of fishermen, of course, they serve fish to their guests. So these are example of their food served to their guests. And every, maybe once or twice a month, they have what we call pop-up markets, no? Selling different kinds of local produce from the community. And to reduce their trips to the supermarket, thus reducing carbon footprint and GHG emission, the community was required to plant vegetables in their backyards, back of their houses, front of their houses, because they need spices, they need vegetables when they cook food to their guests. Another example is the Sibalom Natural Park Ecotourism Project, which I did last year. This is a project of DNR and Biodiversity Financing and UNDP. So it's Sibalom actually is a park in Antique, in the municipality of Sibalom, whose community, there are a lot of communities living on the fringes of the protected area. So what we did is we did, again, cultural mapping, inventory of the cultural resources there, and as well as natural resources. And by the way, this natural park is home to the world's biggest flower, a species of the genus Rafflesia. This is Rafflesia speciosa. This thrives in Sibalom Natural Park. And take note that this plant or this flower is parasitic to the Alopidan. No? Alopidan is that's what they call to the plant, the host plant belonging to Tetrastigma species. No? But you know what? We found out during our cultural mapping that the Alopidan, which is the host plant to the Rafflesia, is used as a spice. It's a souring agent to their native chicken. No? So they stuff the native chicken with these leaves, and then they cook it inside a clay steamer lined with grain salt. And it's very delicious. We call it porbida. So in other words, what did this project taught the locals? That they have to protect both the attraction and the host plant, because the host plant is actually the main ingredients of their culinary heritage, food, right? Another project, Burawin Leyte. Do I have time? I'm conscious because we're only given. Okay. This is in Leyte. This is a landlocked municipality. Look, it's one of the smallest natural parks in the Philippines, but with 3 lakes. And it is also home to the 3 major rivers cutting across the islands of Leyte. And you have countless waterfalls, hot springs, cold springs, etc. It's a very beautiful place. And recently, well, not just before the pandemic, they sighted the Philippine eagle for the first time. So this is the community I organized there, farmers living within the fringes of the protected area. So this is what they do, no? They farm, they have quail farm, they have vegetable farm, fruit orchard, and then they raise poultry, no? And our partners are very young, no? Young farmers. They give up their life in the city, went back. This is just before the pandemic, no? So these are some of their food served, very local. If you look at the presentation, everything, it's local. That one. And they've started developing other products, no, aside from the food. This is the beauty of culinary tourism because you can also develop related or ancillary products, no, like preserved food, souvenirs, sanitizers, etc. And this is their, what do you call this? Their offering, no? Different kinds of rice cakes because this is a rice growing municipality. But what makes these farms interesting are the bomb craters inside the farms. Because these farms were used to be airstrips during the World War II, General MacArthur's time. So you see a lot of these bomb craters. They're pockmarking the farm. So this is a very good stories, especially to the tourists, right? So this is a photo of, a 1946 photo. That's the airstrip, no, where these farms belong. So another project, Katmon Culinary Project. When I was still with the government, because I was in the government for 6 years. So Katmon is actually the name of a tree. You're right, no? So these are some of my proponents there. The beauty of this culinary tourism project is that the farmers are women. And they are raising heirloom ingredients mentioned by Pigafetta and Magellan when they landed in Cebu in 1521. And this include millet, job steers, or adlay, corn that is endemic to Cebu. So these are some of the heirloom produced, no? This is the Katmon fruit. This is the Katmon fruit, no? It's a souring agent. This is mais tinigib, endemic corn. This is mansinas, native beans. Takyong is the Cebu's version of escargot. And then you have adlay or job steers. And then you have natal plum and Camyas granita. They have kabug tres marias. No, they have kabug paella. So many variations. Coconut vinegar. Look how they package their coconut vinegar. Meticulously done, no? And then you have mais tinigib cookies. And we used to do regular cooking shows, no? With the community. In fact, the fruit of the katmon is now used as an infusion in cocktails. So there's one restaurant in Cebu now, Cava. It's a high-end restaurant that serves spirits and cocktails mixed with indigenous fruits. For our Gao Chocolate Project, this is a very interesting story because Gilang is Miguela Lanutan. She started her chocolate business in 1940s, just before the war, but then using the traditional, single-use plastic. And when I was with the government, I had a project called Sustainable Consumption and Production, where we help stakeholders in Cebu develop their own packaging that is, sustainable and environment friendly. So we help the family. So this is Gilang's 3 sons, who are now involved in the business. So we help the family package their product and put some French, label so that it will pass the border security. So these are the different uses of the chocolate served by Radisson Blu in Cebu. Tuburan Coffee, another project. Tuburan now is a municipality in Cebu that has around 1,600 hectares of aggregate plantations of coffee. And it's because of the mayor, very forward-looking. He involved the community. In fact, the town now has a cafe serving Tuburan coffee, and different sorts of coffee-based products. Cebu Chef's Trip, this is very exciting because for 2 years, I brought Cebu chefs around the island, meet with producers, and I took this inspiration from my professor in college by the name of a Chilean agronomist. He's Miguel Altieri, and he said, chefs are important in saving the genetic diversity of crops. So when I went back to the Philippines, I said, I will always remember that line. And so this project was born. So I invited all chefs around Cebu, together with their quality control officers, meet with producers, fishermen, etc., and do market linkages. And we did food festivals. I even brought chefs from Manila, Sina Nina Puyat, Nancy Lumen, etc. So these are some of our festivals in Cebu. Chocolate sommelier from Cebu. She tells about her story growing up in the mountains of Cebu. So how do you develop a community-based culinary tourism product? Emotion more relevant than knowledge, meaning feed the emotion rather than the brain. Authentic, genuine, and original, not changed or staged for visitors. Coming together of aesthetic, service, and hospitality, because it's all about experience. And when you analyze the experience of visitors, they differ. Why? Because each visitor has a different view of what aesthetic, service, and hospitality are for them. It should be multi-sensorial. It involves the senses, the 5 senses. And of course, as I've mentioned earlier, food with message. Local cooks can be excellent storytellers because they know the destinations like the back of their hands. Certification systems, meaning quality management to get that visitor satisfaction. And there is no such thing as zero risk when you do preparation. You have to minimize the food risks. What is the trend now is, I'm sure you're familiar with hazards analysis, critical control point. It's a systematic preventive approach to food preparation and beverage preparation. It's used by NASA when they prepare food in space. So going back to that acid test, this is the last slide, I think. So when we do conservation, our food should be linked to the terroir and the biodiversity conservation. In that case, for example, of that Sibalom parasitic host plant to the flower, which is also used for their menu, for their cuisine. Involvement of locals in the value chain. Cooks, farmers, producers, you have to take them into consideration. Culture, authentic food linked to the traditions of the place. The food should not be staged or it should not be artificial for the sake of tourists. and again, commerce. It should bring in economic benefits to the community. Thank you, and good afternoon.
Thank you very much. We are so lucky we had a lunch. Otherwise, it could be a torture. Huh? So, yeah. So you may have a lot of questions to ask, but we will have a Q&A session after all the speeches. So I asked our speakers to save the time. So we will use that limited the presentation time for Q&A. So just hold your questions with you, and then after all the presentation, I will let you ask questions. So our second speaker is from Indonesia, Ari Suhandi. He is a big brother in ecotourism, the forever brother, never father or grandfather. He's a grandfather though. So when I read his the bio, I need the 2 hours to give you the short the bio, because he was always there. You saw his name and the photo, super young, the Ari from the early 90s. Actually, he started his journey from the 80s. It looked make you old, but he's forever the young brother, not old brother. So, but for someone who do not know the Ari, I'd like to introduce very shortly. Ari Suhandi is a leader of ecotourism globally. So he's engaged in many of the project initiatives, and then he always invited to speak about the ecotourism, not limited to Indonesian ecotourism. But he founded the Indonesian Ecotourism Network shortly in Lekon in 1995. But then he supported many communities, organizations, and then made them also, they have their capacity to lead ecotourism development. Ari has participated in noteworthy ecotourism and community-based ecotourism development initiative in Indonesia in various aspects, including destination planning and management, institutional development, product development, field research, etc. So his performance is recognized globally by all the UN agencies, and then including WTTC. Ari has also been providing service for Ministry of Tourism as an expert team of destination management organization program since 2011 and others. So that's endless his contribution. So now let's travel with Ari about Indonesian culture. Please welcome Ari.
Thank you, Mihi. I took that as a compliment then. Good afternoon. Well, it's really, this is be honored to be here. It's always for me is like since in the morning, is the energy is really, it's a lot of knowledge that we receive, including the one that you are giving. So it's actually, it's been asked to me to sharing about the culture. This is, I told you, this is the most hottest issue if you're linking to tourism. So it's, how do I use this? So this is maybe only 2 slides about my organizations. This is our footprints. You see, Mihi, we use a lot of carbon, for sure. That's why I have a policy 5 years ago. There's every Indecons project, every person, so we're calculating and then we offsetting in one of our projects. So I do hope so with you all, especially the government. I'm sorry to say that the government is a lot of fly, etc. So if you can, this is I'm encouraging with our government, especially Ministry of Tourism in Indonesia. Now we already have just launching. The first country with the minister signed the what do you call it, the for the climate change declarations, what do you call it? Glasgow, yes, sorry. The Glasgow Declaration is actually, we just pushed it about last year's, and then the minister just launching a month ago about campaigning the tourism and climate change, combating the climate change. So this is all over Indonesia. It's our network, our work, a footprint. And finally, thank you as well with the support for all international that we got as a finalist and Tourism for Tomorrow. So for us, ecotourism is important rules for Indonesia. As you know, Indonesia is a huge, very large, 17,500 islands, more than that. I know you have 7,000 in Philippines or more, right? So we have 17,500. Every day, one island you visit, you need 14 years more. So it's a huge country. We flew from Jakarta to Papua, for instance. It took us for 5 hours. So, sorry, wake up. So 5 hours. So this, I flew from Jakarta to here, it's only 3.5. So you can imagine how large our country is. So the issue has been, thank you, Boboy, for your presentation. You bring me all the background. That's what I was thinking. The Boboy with that topic will be bringing that background about the host and guest relations. So this is a very important issue, actually, if you want to develop tourism in indigenous people in the community or community-based tourism. So the issue is actually the bad for many, many years ago, and it's getting more complex nowadays, even because especially about COVID, you see, we're learning about COVID, and it's even bringing more complex. Some of my community, even they close, is not receiving the guests, and then very slowly to bring back the situation and knowledge to them about the COVID and etc. So, but on the one hand, guest relationship with the host is a very good, okay? The interaction is giving a valuable experience. Okay, sometimes that's what like you just mentioned by Bobo is actually the experience of the food even. When you add more with the telling story of the food itself, that is experience. So you just come on and eat, but this is more on the how you packaging as the good experience for tourists. So I just show you actually this issue been discovered since 70 even, on the 60, 70, if you're talking from the academia perspective, that we up until now, I think the butler is still very popular among the students, among the researchers, the what do you call it, the states of tourism products, life cycle or destination development life cycle by butlers still happen. So if you look on the top, we're talking about the carrying capacity. So today in the morning, we are learning a lot. I really like it, that presentation, that you are starting to maintaining the carrying capacity. That's what the ecotourism all about, you know. So actually another sample, if you can maintain in at least the 50% or up, the room is still there. And the COVID is giving us a lesson a lot. Because of the COVID, to be frank, a lot of our national park, maybe tomorrow you can learn from one of our national park in Indonesia. So we use the electronic system, and then we deducted all reservation system and deducted the quota by the 50%. Not even during the COVID, only 25%, and then we are based on the, based on the research. So if you compare with the irritation, just talking about the over-tourism, so it's a very, it's been discussion for a long time ago, but it still happened up to now. So the key is actually how you, when you create the tourism, please don't bring only a tourism perspective, but bring from other perspective too, from the environments, from the social culture perspective. So then you can balance it then. Yeah, I can show you later on how we did it. So where is the position of ecotourism? The ecotourism is the one to balance it, in the harmonizing the environments with tourism and harmonizing tourism and the cultures. People say always 50-50. For me, there is no 50-50. 49-51. Okay, so it's always something that's good. And maybe the tourism is more, or the environments, let's say it's different. But if you can manage that, yeah, because ecotourism or sustainable tourism, ecotourism, responsible tourism, name it, whatever, so slow tourism, all is about tourism itself. It's a business. If this is a business, but the tourism, ecotourism is about what kind of the tourism business that what we want is the business that you can manage the balancing between the environments or cultures, which is as an asset of your tourism, the tourism business, and the economic point of view. So those two, if you can control it, you can get it, the situation. In Decon is with the 27 years, we try always a new way. I always kept, if we came to the one side as a new helping one community-based tourism, we told them that we cannot bring you as a medicine. No, because it's totally different. But we want to teach you the situation, and then you find your own, the medicine, okay? So it's a different if you bring it as an academia or the practitioners coming, and then this is what you should do, something. No, we always a very different way to work. That's why it's a take times, yes, but that is an investment for sustainability. Because most of our work since 2000 that has been mentioned, but that still happen up until now is sustained. Sustainability, one of the indicator is time, okay, if you are agree with that. So all in education, interpretation, and etc. is very important. Can I play the movie here? On the left. Oh, okay. It's actually I want the left one. Okay. It's only 1 minute. Can you play another one? On the left? No. Yes. Yay! That's a happy ending. So let us make a same perception about ecotourism, quality tourism, okay? the quality tourism most, if we're talking about the government, the industry, they're always talking about the access, the facilities perspective, which is, yes, that's true. Access, facilities of tourism, that's true. But from people on tourism perspective, that goes from that one. But, you know, they talked about the luxury. But from the ecotourist perspective, actually the luxury is like this. If they can see the wildlife mating in their habitat like that, that's a luxury. They can pay more, okay? They don't care about the sleep. As long as I can get it that. You guarantee, that is also luxury. Guarantee is luxury, okay? If you can guarantee to see that, the rest, they forget it. That's ecotourist. So, you see the bird? I don't know who's inspiring. It's the same teacher with the Filipinos, right? The Filipino teacher, right? On the beach. Today, this morning, I saw it. And then we got married. So it's the same thing. You remember that? So, you remember this morning? So, on the left side, Aman Apay, we call it, is the Sikere. He's the medicine man. And we went together with them in the forest. Just, there is no specific things, just together with them, enjoys. Yeah, and see their smile, smile. That's expensive. That's luxury. People, we sometimes say, they are poor. No. Who is poor? Maybe us, not them. They are really good maintaining their own resources. And they still live, they enjoy the life, you know. So that's, make it the same perception about ecotourism first. So, or you experience the food, like Boboy said, or experience sleeping in the custom house, is the traditional houses. You know, it took us for 1 year with all the traditional people to understand about what I call chopotable, movable homestay. Because we just put it and then move it and then it's normal. We don't change anything about the houses. But ecotourists were like, yes, I want to get the experience. So play with their mindset a bit, so you can get more value on it. So this is the same, like your area is close to Zamboanga, is the Miri, North Albert area, North Kalimantan, North Borneo is the same. So if you enjoy this together with them, that's what the luxury is. Yeah. So, but a lot of issue in that, the impact that you need to maintain. Yeah, this is only some of it. If you're talking culture, it's more a lot of derived, what do you call it? Derived impact, you know, changing the cultural safe for sure is making tourist behavior, you name it, in Bali, we've seen a lot, yeah. And then changing the main job because of the tourism is, we have, especially in the island, be careful, a small island. When you develop the tourism, you need to think on not only tourism, but you need to other sectors. You need to think about the fisheries, you need to think of husbandry, you need to think about crops, what do you call it, agro. So then you need to balance that. We are talking about resilience of community, the resilience of destinations, okay? So then the approach is always different depending on the situation at the locals, okay? Because tourism is a very fast growing, easy money. You can, you know, we are a people is always greedy, okay? The key in tourism is actually what we say, enough is enough. You should, we as a player of ecotourism saying, oh, that is enough for me. So I teach, we have actually another good sample and then we calculating based on the graphic of Butler and only have a 50%. So the room is actually still a lot and the people happiness that will and at the end that will calculating. So this is the impact. It's so many things. We can discuss that a lot. But how to measure it? This is only some of it. It's again depend on the situation on the ground. But sometimes we calculating. This is what Mihi said about the over tourism. The ratio number of tourists with the local residents. You need to maintain that since the beginning. Yeah, that's why in INDECON's programs always start with planning, with more precisely I can say participative planning. And participative planning, they decide by themselves and then involve the local community. Local perception of tourism, the nature of interaction between the host and the guests, you can also measure that. And level of issue, the products and facilities, that you also can measure that. Ratio, type, and employments, etc. So it's again, when you study it, you do planning, and then you put the KPI, and then you started to develop and follow all the process. For me, measure for us is limited acceptable change, which is being used. It's actually the tools that if you have the zero data when you start it, and then you continuing measure with the surveying, yeah, the all indicators, so then you can measure what is the impact, and then you change. For us, that's what the most complex with tourism, you know. Then you need, when there's something change you see, you think it's not good, then you need to have another approach in management. Okay, so its management is a key. That's why I totally agree with the first pillars of GSTC, the sustainable tourism is management, sustainable management. That's a key. So what is a cultural heritage give a value to tourism? So it's like strengthening destinations of image, increasing quality tourism at the destination if you are packaging well, and then strengthening a tourism product profile, becoming a unique selling point. So one of my, I can give later on the situation, is this is close to the Komodo National Park, actually. And long time ago, I said, okay, the design is just follower of the Komodo. But now, actually, the village has become the same position with the Komodo. The people come to the forest, to the island, they just want to visit the village. It's not before it's visit the Komodo and then the village. But now, they want to go sit only for the village. So it means they are leaders in the destination, yeah? So what is the tourism can give benefit to the cultural heritage? So for us in INDECON, is always working on the second one, providing financial mechanism for cultural heritage preservation. It's a lot of way. It's a lot of mechanism you can set up. You cannot just one can be replicate another one. It might be different because the character of local is always different. So increase the recognition of cultural value of the cultural heritage. How many of us in the ASEAN country using the word cultural heritage branding in your promotion? Except I like it, the one in the Puerto Princesa underground rivers. They use it and a big with the guide on the back, the word heritage. I love it that. In Indonesia, we still less. We need more. In your country, I believe this is already a good flag on the word cultural heritage, the word natural heritage. You sell it, yeah, as a promotion part. So increasing the pride of community, this is a very important part actually at the end, and increasing the community creativity and explore new things and together with the cultural heritage. So this is another 4 slide. Maybe I hope that I can use my time effectively. This is Wahirabo village in West Manggarai. The only IN board that I bring is Albert Theo together with me. Thank you for your visit. So it's is in 2009, 26, 205. My friends from Netherlands, the cross communication is, it came from Netherlands to me. I said, Ari, I recommend you need to help these people. And then they connect me with the people, and the people finally, we met in 2005, and they said, help us, blah, 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 because we are the only live traditional of Manggarai in their district. This is the only village live it. The rest is already gone. This is like finding a treasury. I'm walking about 6.5 hours up to one from 0 DPL to 1,200 above sea level. So this is a 1,100 above sea level. So what is the design? In the beginning I came in 2006, there's actually nothing. It's only 4 of the 7, only 4 of the 7. And then when I came, they just said, Ari, I want to give up all the things. The crop is coffee, and then cinnamon, and then corn. That's it. And then I met one guy, the kid who are bringing me up to the village is not going to school. He said, I don't have much money for that. Okay, so it's actually, this community is already totally frustrated because their crops is not enough to support their life, Then we thought that my friend from Netherlands said, it might be tourism can help. But in that time, I took a lot of lessons from many of my friends who are working in the social part, anthropology and others, because I want to learn first, because it's not easy working with the traditional people. So the way how we did, the local economy that our aims, and then we use the tourism as an instrument, but we'll also look agriculture-based product and craft products. And then if you coming up for one, when the tourists coming and already, then you can solve all the how to do it, like the way Boboy just presenting, then creating as an added value for attraction for the tourists. It's the same thing like the agriculture product. So this is our scheme for the one in Flores. This project is supported by European unions, and then the institutional development is a number 1. It took us more than 2 years to make a same perception before we started, before we launching, to make sure they are understand about the impact of tourism. It's not easy. Again, as I mentioned, next, what you need to carefully thinking is about generation. After 5 years, after 6 years, the next generation, they're thinking, oh, that's money. Like a new generation now thinking about money here. But we need to rework again with them. Okay. Standard operation, we work. Look after the guests welcome. This is a tourism management community group. Duties, implementers, code of ethic for visitors, financial administration, distribution of benefit. That's the most important. Usually you are always conflict one group to the others on your village. This is tiring. You need to put everything in the front and put in the paper, writing down and sign it. That's what we call declaration together with them. So if not, if you conflict and back to that road, So that's just making the road to get the vision together. So this is the management where we finally came. We have the customer leaders receive guests with the traditional way. You cannot be doing the activity before you get the blessing from the leaders. Okay, and then ensuring that the groups, the LPBW, the community groups, it's carried the annual meetings and then accountability and reporting. And the women's group, this is very strong. We have 5 groups, consists of 9 or 8, and then the rotation for day. You know what the design is? We're calculating the cost of benefit of one person in tourism. You know, it's only 1 or 2 days per week they're spending for tourism. What the rest? The rest for agricultures. The rest for the daily life. Don't changing since the beginning all of your community directly. That is the key, okay? And then each group have their own coordinators, and there are 5 groups, the daily, families. So woman is very strong there. Before the woman have no money, and now woman is actually is balanced. They have money, not even higher now with the man, because the man is only from the crops. We have a daily managers. It's like a 5-star. We bring up that the 5-star, a guest relationship. I have one, the local, that did it. When you enter, they just coming, approaching Albert, hey, how are you? And you should be knocking that you are coming to the village. We have a system that we try. So if you want to manage the sustainability, institutional development is important. If you are managing the tourism, it's 2. One is the institutional itself, and then the system. Don't just, if you're starting from the economic point of view, you're just bringing people in and then take it the money, retribution, then you don't care the rest. But you need to caring, because a lot of work when the tourist is coming to your to the village. Yeah? Guest reception, bedding arrangement, briefing. They are stay in the local house. Finally, after we got the support from Indonesian richmen, because we did auction with one of our partners, is Yayasan Rumah Asuh Foundation. It's a partner. It's a very famous architect in Indonesia, and he's helping us. And then we did the auction, and within one night we got money for the tree. And then we built. We change it, we change the situation. We don't bring carpenters up, but we learn how that the local community bring. And we bring a student. So during the development of the house, the rebuild of the house, we got a 2 master for that. So then you can already put it, all the situation, the local, the system, traditional is on the book. So means that you are preserved already. Okay, that's important. And the next is put it on journal. I agree with you. Put it on journal. In ASEAN country, including Indonesia, we're still very poor in journal. Journal of the research. I'm also a person who are talking with the academy. Hey, come on, you did a research. Come to my place. Here's doing that and that. So it's important. Technical operator is actually just to managing waters and managing, controlling electricity and administrations and other things. After 2 years, we have creative economic groups for coffee, chips groups, and etc. So then the next is actually how you create the products development. Even though only entering your village, don't let the tourists just watching you. You should design. We should pride by ourselves, you know, as a local community, by our cultures. So then teach them how to make their own coffee. In here, in Wairebo, we have a cup of coffee journey, a cup of coffee product. So then you can go to the farmer picking up, and then you pounding, you washing until you drink it. So that's a one product. Okay, this is my last, I think, product. The result after 6 years together with them. So this is before COVID, 2019. So 7,800 is still okay because I put the number about 10,000 maximum. It's already yellow, you know, in that time. But COVID helping and going down again. But during the COVID, they are safe because their coffee plantation is very good. And coffee, we are also working on it. From the 30,000, it's mean only 30,000 is about $2 a kilos before when we enters, and then we're getting up for $4 a kilo. So then they get a lot of money from coffee itself, as well as the from tourists. Look at the now it's very easy for you to monitor the feedback based on the nation park, or you can just browsing the in TripAdvisors. Okay, thank you very much. I hope it's this sharing, and thank you as well for Indonesian colleagues who are been a participation in this forum. I really appreciate. Albert, this is your pictures.
Thank you. Terima kasih. So did you enjoy Indonesian culture? Yes, now we need to ask your boss to give holidays to travel to the different destinations in Indonesia. But now you can attract the international participant to also your country. So I'd like to invite Mr. Alan Kapuyan, Chair, National Commission on Indigenous Peoples. Where is him? The chair, Alan, not here yet? Okay, then I'd like to invite the Mr. Rodel Hiladofer. Oh, you're here. So now it's not the Mr. Sorry, Miss Alan. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Mr. Alan Kapian will talk about the ecotourism and the indigenous people. So I don't have your short bio, so you can start with the introduction of yourself. Okay, thank you very much. So please give a big hand.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, good afternoon to everyone. I'm not Chairman Alan Kapuyan. He's my boss. I'm representing I'm representing him. I'm Marie Grace Tindaan Pasqua, the director for the Region 4B, particularly Mimaropa. That means here in Region 4, we have Mindoro, Palawan, Romblon. So thank you for inviting us to the honorable organizers of this event. We have chaired by Dr. Mina Gabor and the vice chair, and to all the organizers. We're so happy to be here representing the indigenous peoples as well as the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples. So what's ecotourism and the indigenous peoples? Allow me to start with the audiovisual to show to you the beautiful sceneries of the areas of the indigenous peoples. So we welcome you all to El Nido, Palawan. Who had been there, El Nido? I hope everyone went there. Look at that place.
God gave this land to me.
You feel so relaxed watching and experiencing that area. That's owned by the indigenous peoples, the Tagbanwa in particular. And now the rice terraces who have been to the Cordillera. That's the Ifugao rice terraces. So behind all these beautiful sights and sceneries, you have the 101 ethno-linguistic groups. And we can show you through the different representations, and they are all over the Philippines.
Ininto ang pusong kayamanan, minsan na ring nilapas tanganan. Katulad mo ay may puso rin, ikaw ay meron ding damdamin.
By the way, we have our crafts and arts craft in our booth. You can visit that area if you might be interested to have souvenirs.
Sa tubig, lupa at karagatan, sa piling ng inang kalikasan, biyaya ay iyong nakamtan. Subok na ang iyong kakayahan, likas ang iyong aking karunungan, mautak, magaling, oh. Magsikap ka, suwag ko, sa ngipin ng lahi mo, huwag sanang hayaan maglaho. Magsikap ka, suwag ko, sa ngipin ng lahi mo, huwag sanang hayaan maglaho.
Thank you for watching. So, who are the indigenous peoples, and of course, what's National Commission on Indigenous Peoples? By the way, I'm also an IP, indigenous person, coming from the Cordillera, particularly from the Kiangan, and where you can see the Ifugao rice terraces. I welcome you to visit our place, so you would experience how to trek, in all the rice paddies. So NCIP, it's a government agency, and we're in charge of ensuring the protection of the indigenous peoples. And we would want that even in tourism and whatever development projects that enter the indigenous peoples, we would like to see indigenous peoples who are benefiting, who are empowered, and who can be proud to say that because of, let's say, ecotourism, because of other development projects, they had enhanced their way of life. So further to that, we have, the office has at least 13 regional offices. For those who had been in the Philippines and for those who are working with us, you will know that there are 13 offices that are spread in 48 provinces. And we have also 110 ethnographic centers, but particularly they are to cater the indigenous peoples that are all over the Philippines. So at least we have 1,687 employees, staff. Now, let me bring you to the ethnographic regions. How do we divide? Not really divide. How do we put the indigenous peoples together? We have 7 ethnographic regions. You have the first, Car and Region 1, as you can see there. Then followed by Region 2, further on the north. And the names here, like in island groups, you can look at or you can see the different indigenous peoples. I'm sure you encountered some of them. Then going to the rest of Luzon, another group. Now in Mindanao area, the southern part, it's divided into 3 groups. The first is you have northern and western Mindanao, particularly that's Region 11 and Region 9 and 10. Then here, Central Mindanao, Region 12. And then now you go to Region Southern and Eastern Mindanao, that's Region 11 and Region 13. So let's see. Behind all of those beautiful sceneries, you have the indigenous peoples here. For example, in Car and Region 1, you have Aplay, Ayangan, Bago, Balangao, and so forth. Earlier, I mentioned to you that there are at least 110 ethno-linguistic groups. And the commissioner that heads Car and Region 1, we have Commissioner Gaspar Kayat. So there you can see the rice terraces, which is famous for its amphitheater, for the amphitheater, wherein you can find it at Batad, Banawe, Ifugao. By the way, the homelands of the indigenous peoples are known as ancestral domains. That's why if you see the word AD, it means ancestral domains. When we go to Region 2, no, Region 2 is headed by the current commissioner. We have Miss Simplicia Hagada, and the Region 2 is famous for its Basco Lighthouse. If you have been at Batanes Island, you are welcomed by that lighthouse, and it's an ancestral domain of the Ivatans. So there you can, in Region 2, you will see the Agta, there, Ayangan, the Bugkalot, Kalinga, Gaddang, Ibanag, and so forth. We go further. That's in rest of Luzon and Region 3. In Region 3, this is headed by the current commissioner, Commissioner Rodex Valenciano. And Region 3, particularly in Donsol, Sorsogon, is known for its whale sharks. Who had been to that area and swam with the whale sharks? Ayan. Oh, so you must have enjoyed, no, swimming with the whale sharks. So that's at Donsol. And don't you know that the area of Donsol is owned by the ancestral domain? It's an ancestral domain of the Agta. Can you imagine how the indigenous peoples had been taking care of all of this, and now it becomes a tourist destination? So we owe a lot from them. If it were not from them, we won't be enjoying all of this. Never had they thought that it will be a tourist destination. But because of their indigenous knowledge systems and practices, their cultural laws, their rituals, their way of life, that's what we are enjoying now. Let's go further. When you go to, oh, there you are. That's my area, no? I have to introduce my boss. He is the current commissioner, George M. Largado, commissioner for Island Groups and Rest of Luzon. So, Rest of Visayas. That's in Boracay Island. So, who had been there? I'm sure you have been to Bora, the famous destination with white sand beaches. So, you have the ancestral domain of Bora, Boracay, or Bora, is owned by the Ati of Malay, Aklan. Because of them also, you have the white sand beaches. So every time you go to Bora, I hope you would recognize the efforts of the Ati of Balay, Aklan. But there are also other ethnic groups there. As you can see here, you have the Bangon, Bantuanon, Batak, Buhid, and so forth. So different communities, different indigenous knowledge systems and practices, different ways of living, which all the more makes it palatable for tourists. Next, we go further. Mindanao area. As earlier I mentioned, you have 3 areas there. So you have the Malinaw Eco Park, that's Bukidnon, Kalasungay, Malaybalay, and that's in northwestern and western Mindanao. And the commissioner there is Pinky Grace Pareja, Pabelik. Next, we go further. Mount Apo. You have there the famous destination that's owned by ancestral domain of the Manubo of Kidapawan. And that's in central Mindanao, and the current commissioner there is Commissioner Jennifer Sibuglas. And we go further. Now, we have here the Agusan Mars, and you will see it at the ancestral domain of the Manobo. And the current commissioner, who is also the current chairman, who is supposed to speak today, but I would be representing him. We have Chairman Allen Kapuyan. So let's listen to his message since he could not be around.
The Philippines is the first country and one of the few in the world to legally recognize the rights of indigenous peoples through a comprehensive social justice law that became a model of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Amid challenges, Our government, through the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, or NCIP, the agency mandated to promote and protect the IP rights, perseveres in its effort to advance the rights and welfare of our 16 million indigenous peoples. The indigenous peoples' representation and participation are prerequisites in efforts to reverse the systemic marginalization and exclusion suffered by indigenous peoples in our colonial history. This is vital to harnessing IP's role in nation building and central to the UN's trust to build back better.
Thank you. So there you are. When we talk of ecotourism, authentic ecotourism, it's very clear that the indigenous peoples have the rights to participate in all the development projects. So nationwide, we have at least 14 to 16 million, and the highest are found in the Mindanao area. That's almost 63%. Next slide. So earlier I mentioned that why we do have all these beautiful sceneries and that we are enjoying the tourist attraction. It's because these are the indigenous people's homeland, which we call the ancestral domain. So nationwide, we have at least 13 million hectares that are owned by the that are ancestral domain owned by indigenous peoples. It's almost 44% of the land of the Philippines. That's why for those, as early as now, let me inform you, for those who would like to buy land, especially in these areas, kindly coordinate with the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples to make sure that are not ancestral domains. So it has to be cleared with us to protect you as an investor as well as the buyers and the sellers. But the indigenous peoples are not against development. We are for development. We just make sure that we have the processes which we call the right to participate, the right to be involved, and the right to have the consent. We call that the free, prior, informed consent. So if you are more interested to invest in the ancestral domain, we would assist you, and please coordinate with us. Now, the rights of the IPs are summarized into 4. You have the right to their ancestral domain, the right to self-governance and empowerment, and the right to social justice and human rights, and the right to cultural integrity. And in all the 4 bundles of rights, you have specific rights there, which we call the 36 specific rights. Due to time constraints, I could not explain further, but as I stated earlier, we can orient you or we can inform you all the different rights so that those who are working with indigenous peoples in the Philippines, most especially, we can have a different fora with you. So in all the rights, you can see the rights of the communities. And that makes ecotourism more authentic when you are working with them in accordance to their rights. Now, let me further emphasize the 11 building blocks. These 11 building blocks, just like a house, we want it to be strong, and we wanted to see communities to be resilient, responsive, and relevant. For all projects that would enter IP communities, we would want that they are respected in terms of their self-governance, that their organizations are also respected, and that they have their certificate of ancestral domain title, they have their management office, they have their community plans, as well as there's transparency in terms of the division of benefits, especially when it comes to money, and that their right to be heard in terms of development that entered their area, which we call the free, prior, informed consent, is being respected. Also, the representation in all government institutionalities and the memorandum of agreement is clear for everyone. Also, in terms of development, we would want to see them as empowered better than before. Next. So now, to summarize, authentic tourism is founded on the 4 bundles of rights, the indigenous peoples, as we had said, the ecotourism ecotourism that recognizes that you have 110 indigenous peoples and that there's a respect on their cultural integrity, their indigenous knowledge systems and practices, as well as we protect their environment, their ancestral domain, and most of all, we promote responsible tourism. Why we emphasize responsible tourism? Because it encompasses all. It needs the whole of nation approach, the whole of instrumentalities to be able to have an authentic ecotourism. So, in Mimaropa, no, I'm ending already my presentation. Welcome to Palawan. You can see there, the one with the longest arm, as we say. And you can see that there are red spots, blue spots, yellow spots, because we are showing to you the ancestral domain claims of the indigenous peoples. And further, you have Mindoro and Romblon. All of these are owned by 21 IP groups. In Palawan, you have at least 9. You have the Agutainen, Batak, Cagayanen, Coyonen, Molbog, Palawan, Tagbanwa, Tandulanen, and Tagbanwa, Calamian. So when you encounter them, there you are. You are welcomed by their authenticity, on their smiles, and being hospitable to you. Then going further, you have Romblon. There are 3 IP groups there, the Ati, Bantuanon, Sibuyan, Mangyan, Tagabukid. And in Mindoro, you have at least 9 IP groups, Alangan, Bangon, Buhid, Gubatnon, Hanunoo, Iraya, Ratagnon, Tadyawan, and Taubuhid. Most of their products, by the way, are already in our display center. You can look into that, and you will see their being unique. No, they're being creative and innovative on how they made use of the natural resources to come up with beautiful products. That's from arts, handicrafts, weaves, and so forth. By the way, I'm using the weaves, no, the weaves of the indigenous peoples. And I'm proud to show to you that they have beautiful beads, beautiful weaves, and of course, the fusion of different colors. So that's our heritage, our future, and your destination. So trust your adventure with us. We'd like to end this with another video clip. And welcome to the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples. Welcome, and we're happy in behalf of all the 17 million indigenous peoples. Thank you so much for listening. Please watch.
I join the entire Filipino people as we observe this year's Indigenous Peoples Month and commemorate the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act. Tamang-tamang panahon ito para patibayin ang ating pundasyon at alalahanin natin at kilalanin natin ang ating pagka-Pilipino. It is a splendid mixture of cultural jewels that together give our nation its crowning glory. Alalahanin natin na ang kultura ng Pilipino ay nanggaling sa ating mga katutubo, ang mga unang mga Pilipino. Let this year's celebration motivate each of us to strive for progress and leave no Filipino behind. Mabuhay ang mga katutubong Pilipino, mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you so much. And from the indigenous peoples, ecotourism is when we have something left behind for the next generation, better than before. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mary Grace. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. So I am indigenous in Korea. Yeah. So I look like a Filipino, Thai, Chinese, or Cambodian, but I'm a Korean, the native, indigenous. We have a one ethnic group, so everybody is indigenous. But now we are getting the multicultural country, and then try to harmonize with a different culture. So your country is the rich the culture and the multiple the ethnic groups really they help us how we can adjust ourselves to welcome the different culture to Korea. So now we have the last speaker. It's Mr. Rodel Hilado he's a tourism officer of Tivoli, South Cotabato, and then he will start with his the self-introduction. Please welcome.
Whew. Maybe I am the applications of that three best speaker. No, of course, my idol, Boboy Costas. I met it in ISST in Subic with Dr. Mina Gabor way back 7 years ago. I was a young tourism officer of this country. And of course, I saw another teacher, Sir Chu. Yeah. I meet also from the community-based touring in Kuching in Sarawak. And of course, a friend from Indonesia, from indigenous people, and of course from the NCIP. Now, I came from the municipality, and I think this is the output, or maybe the applications of the three speaker. Yeah. So, good afternoon. Hiyo kam daw, in my language, no? Maayong hapon sa inyong tanan. I am proud that I came from the municipality in the whole country that named after my people. And that's the only country that named after the tribe in the whole country. And that is the municipality of Tivoli, no? In the province of South Cotabato, in the southern part of the Philippines. No? My gateway is General Sandra City. And I wish you will enjoy and maybe we'll have fun with my presentations. No? And we are so happy and glad with Dr. Mina inviting us to be part and will be representing the Philippines in this first international ecotourism. So our journey as a Tivoli people started with a visions towards our, our destinations or our ecology. Because I believe we indigenous people cannot live without our ecology. Our designs, chants, music, our patterns reflect to our nature. We are mimicking tribal dances and everything to our ecology. That is why if there's no such ecology, we will die. No, we will die. So, very simple. Our project in tourism is a community-based tourism. Looking back in 2015, when my boss bring me to IST in Subic, and I was able to understand what is the balance between the ecology and the tourism. This is my town in 1970, yeah, declared in a PDPO 07 by the former President Marcos. A very simple dream, and this is what my town today. Beautiful dreams that we are able to preserve and conserve our culture, traditions, and heritage. Again, welcome to my municipality, the municipality of Tivoli, the Tivoli Quinoan, the land of the dream weavers, where dreams comes to reality. So I started tourism as we understand the gaps of my town. I belong to the Jeddah area, geographically isolated area, and Elkhak area, all gaps we have in the southernmost is available in my town. But that answers all from the ecotourism project. So we have this tourism potential from culture. I believe I am one of the most beautiful indigenous people in the whole country with our customs, traditions, dance, music, literary arts. No, I'm one of those beautiful indigenous people. We have nature and we have the adventure. Next slide. This is the part of the government in a triad of understanding of crafting ecotourism. The role of the government, the role of the community, and the role of the private partners and private sectors, or the public. We are able to craft our tourism development plans, product development, activities, and most of all, our tourism code, that the voice of the people is the voice of this paper and the policies. The listening time as a tourism officer. I was able to listen each areas of our communities, what to be our tourism is all about. So that in the partnership of the government, the public, and the community, we're able to have that share of this tourism value chain. Next slide. Sorry. So in order to conserve and protect our heritage and environment, we're able to establish partners with academe, to study what is our biodiversity, what is inside heritage. We're able to develop and partners with the government agencies like NCCA and tourism to study our gods within our ecology, within our heritage area. We also studied our birds and other floras and fauna found in our areas. And this is a partnership within the local government and other public sectors, especially the academe. And we're able to book it. We have now the book of these studies. And we are proud of that. Now we are using it in the tourism industry now. And this is the most and the highlight I've learned to Sir Boboy and the IST, and I started sustainable tourism. We are one of the few LGU in the whole country. We have the pure creation month, or the breathing time, as a part of our policy. We are close to tourists from January to March for us to celebrate our indigeneity, our rituals, our dance, our music. At the same time, all of our destinations will take rests for tourists. Because I believe I don't need 1,000 tourists expense maybe $100. I need 100 expend $1,000. That's the footprint. Because that will be owed to the next generations. We're able to sustainable to sustain the tourism industry. This is the lake, the cleanest and the greenest island body of water in the whole Philippines. And I have to protect this because as my domain and my people says, this is the gateway to our heaven and where the gods are live. So, of course, we have to close it every year, and we do it for almost 7 years, and we became sustainable. Today, we have this program with our community, with our government, and of course, with our partners. We have homestay, camping, hiking, shooting, water sport, and other adventures that owned by the community, and they have now life for it. And of course, as other presentations, outside coming in, we're part already of our family. The getting married in our ancestral domain, in our, areas. The famous casing stones. You ask for partner and love. There are many testimonies because that's our ritual areas. And became famous in the whole country. Palagi ako nandito. I always visited this area. Yeah. And we have festivals where people from the outside will visit us to see. From a non-thing LGU municipality in the Philippines, now it became one of the most visited in terms of festivities and others in the whole country. And of course, one of the most important part of our tourism program, investing to the social capital. We have the investment to our people, our guides, porters, women, or the owners of the homestays. We're able to serve our tourists and share our knowledge, our cultural knowledge and heritage, and of course, and others, from food to another services in the community. We have the host community, and I wish you have to visit our booth there and experience some of the homestays of our booth in the area. So this is the most important part of the tourism industry in my community or in my LGU for the investment for our social capital and partners in the community. And today, as a response to our local government, that most of us, one young Tiboli, should have a professional in a family. And I think I am response to that call for the development of my local government. Many tour guides, porters, community owners are now professionals with engineers, teachers, and others. And we are so proud of it. And this year, the local government unit gave 7 of our barangays tourism became the outstanding barangay in my area. And no doubt, 2016 and 17, we've been part of the green sustainable destination of the world. Thank you to Ma'am Susan, has shared to us how to be sustainable in the program. And we are one of the SOC Sergeant Excellence Awards in the tourism in my region. And in 2019, we had been awarded as the best community-based tourism in the Philippines. And last year, we are the best local government unit in the whole country. And I think I've shared my part as a tourism officer to the rest of the ecotourism group in this hall today. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Thank you. You have to enjoy. Please watch our video. Mabuhay, taybong salamat. Opo, Kong. We have booth from this right side of our exhibit. Now we have selling our products now and experience culture and adventure and nature in this right side of our booth. Wala ba?
Okay, thank you very much. We will play when it is ready later. So as I promised, the Q&A session, but we really have a limited time, so we'll accept just a quick question and a quick answer. So for 5 minutes. So our 4 speakers, you had the 4 speakers presentation. So speakers, no? Could you come out? Yeah. So raise your hands if you want to ask some questions. Yes, okay. So please, Boboy, where are you? So.
Good afternoon. I may not be very familiar with some of the terminologies, and I've been hearing the word greenwashing.
Could you identify
right.
who you want to ask?
There were first two resource speakers who mentioned the word greenwashing, and I'm not so familiar with that. We would like to be clarified on what it is all about to avoid misconceptions and misinterpretations. Thank you. I am Josephine Abellana, Tourism Officer of the Province of Cotabato, Mindanao.
Another speaker we have now? maybe later this.
Oh, you can answer. You can. About greenwashing, okay. We don't want to be the source of greenwashing. That's why we're here. Any messages, any promotion material, marketing, using eco or green, whatever the wording, it's not actually reflecting your actions. Some are very superficial. Even the SDGs that you may use, you have all the text, but you don't have the evidence to show. So when we think about it, if you can answer, I always ask, your actions, what are the sustainability components or elements that have been improved because of your activities? If you cannot answer that, it's greenwashing because there's no ground, there's no evidence, right? So it's quite easy. So you really have to have, yeah, exactly. Why you're doing this and what are the output, why you're doing this. You have no answers to it. If it's purely economical motivation, it's normally greenwashing. Some are actually, it's not like black and white. Some are very gray. So consumers are getting more clever in the sense that, is it really true? You really need to think about it. So I hope that clears out a little bit of your confusion there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, another question? Oh, the video is ready? Okay, after video, actually, I got the information from our organizer. There's another presentation. So we will have another presentation. So after that, you will have the coffee break. But yeah, let's watch.